Good day, everyone, and you're welcome to this first lecture. I'll call this a lesson one. So it's the introduction to copy editing and um, publishing ecosystem. So when we say we're trying to introduce you to copy editing, we're trying to introduce you to the most important behind the scene processes that makes publishing possible. So publishing is the act of processing some certain manuscripts. It passes through some chains of controls for vetting for approval to ensure that they minimize error and before they now gets to the point where it will say it is published. So it is a self-containing ecosystem where we have different kind of peoples. We have sub-editors, proofreaders, writers, contracted writers, and more. And these all are job roles, and somebody can be in charge of all of this chain of control. All right, my name is Olasunkanmi Arowolo, and my area of specialization is in journalism, political and development communication. But I have a personal flair for what practical aspects of mass communication. Book is one of those platforms. You agree with me that if I share a PDF, I could reach millions of people, and I'm communicating with the masses. So I have this knack for the processes of of processing manuscripts and also publishing them, either academically or the serious journal academic publication or the other aspect of things like fictions, non-fictions, and reading materials. So if you want to read more about me, you can scan the QR code and that is at the bottom right, and then we can take advantage of that and use that. Okay, so now, yeah, this is a QR code here if you need to scan that. Moving on, I want us to take a moment to take this quick question. Yes, I'm going to stay here for a while for you to do that. You can pause your video now, scan this. If you're on mobile phone, take a screenshot of it. It will go to your phone gallery. So then you click on the QR code, it will take you there. So these questions will sort of help me measure what you know at the moment, what you know about what I'm about to tell you more about, what I'm about to teach you more about. So please do that now. If you haven't paused your video, you haven't done the right thing. So please pause your video, take a screenshot, or scan a barcode, QR code. I always encourage students to be on their PC, their tab, so you can have your mobile phone to engage. But if you're on mobile phone, that's totally fine. Just take a screenshot of it, and then you click on it. If you're on iPhone, it takes you straight on there, or you can get a QR code reader to help you extract the link. In subsequent video, I will spell out the link there so you can always use it. Or in our live session, you should have it in the live chat. All right, so if you've done this and taken it, that is great. It's going to be a useful one for me to be able to improve and to measure whether or not I've delivered on my teaching promises. So, what we will cover today? Today, we will cover the journey of a manuscript. Manuscript travels on a journey and it starts from the writer, moves to the change of control, vetting, and more, and then to the stage where it is finally approved for publication. So we look at the journey of a manuscript and then a book publishing cycle. Remember, it's a journey, and that journey is sort of like a cycle. It moves round, around, and round. And then defining what copy editing is, we're going to do that in this lesson. I'm going to speak to you from a practical point of view, from experience. I'm going to tell you some stories that will help you understand what I'm sharing. And then we have the four C's of copy editing, which I'm going to introduce you to. We look at the core responsibility of a copy editor and the editorial ecosystem itself. I hope you're ready. If you are, you should have your pen and paper, not your paper, your book, dedicated just for this course with you now. Let's get started. Put down this thing so that you know how we are going to journey through. And when you have questions in between, don't worry, note them down. There will be a QR code that you can scan or use to engage in order for you to ask questions. When you ask those questions, I'll be able to answer them in the live chat or even through the comments. So if you have questions that I'm unable to take, or maybe you're watching this afterwards, after the live session, you can please try as much as possible to put it in the comment section, and I'll respond to that in due time. Now, let's talk about the journey of manuscript. Now, typing the end is just the beginning. When you, as a writer, you've written stories, you've written dramas and all of those things. And eventually you get to the point where you're done writing and you type the end. But the end for you is the beginning for the publisher. Is the beginning of confirming what you've written. It's the beginning of validating what you've written. It's the beginning of reviewing and repurposing or redesigning to ensure that that thing that you wrote the end for is actually going to have a new beginning. So the end is the beginning. If I ask you today to explain the concept of the end within the publishing ecosystem, you should be able to explain just this to me. Okay. Now, an unedited manuscript is a rough diamond. Now, when you have, it's just like you having a raw gold. It's not useful until it is been refined. It needs to pass through refining process. It needs to pass through fire. It needs to pass through tests. So we can be able to put it and form it into shape so that we can be able to form it into the sort of context of its usage. Now, an unedited manuscript is like a rough diamond. It needs to be cleaned up. It needs to be refined so you can cherish it, so you can appreciate it, so it can be comprehensible. Sometimes, even publishing a manuscript, the same story, the same content, it might be repurposing it for a different age group. You can imagine when I'm trying to explain photosynthesis to a grown up and I'm trying to explain the same thing for a less than a 5-year-old. I have to explain it in different ways. So I need to process it. Now, this requires cutting. Think about it like a diamond now, that a manuscript is like a rough diamond. You have to think about it like a diamond. And then imagine that it needs to be cut, it needs to be polished, it needs to be polished, yeah, and it needs to be sort of set. Meaning if you want to put it within a particular frame, it needs to fit into it. It needs to be clean so that it can, when it is seen, it will be appreciated. If it is it's a diamond, if it is to be placed on a ring, it needs to sit well on the frame. You understand what I mean? That manuscript needs to fit the audience use. Now, our focus today, which is the first major step in the transformation of copy editing, is all of this. Okay, let's talk about the cycle itself. What does copy editing fit in? Where exactly does it fit in? Now, the first stage that we have in the cycle is one, a publisher buys the manuscripts. Yes, it is a contest. Publishers are looking for what to publish, but they are looking for what they will publish that will be profitable. I don't know. Does that make sense? They are looking for what to publish that will be profitable. Now, they have to ensure that they have a market ready for it for them to make money. So if you are buying something, you want to resell it in a published format, such in a manner that it will bring you profits. The question is, does a copy editing or copy editor's role fit into the acquisition process? Two, developmental editing. This is the second stage. You are trying to fix the big picture, the plot, the structure of the manuscript. You're trying to look at it. It's just like you making a purchase of a building that was built for a different reason, and then you want to use it for your own preconceived projects. You need to sort of do some restructuring, adjustments. You need to be able to redesign to maximize profit. So think about the big picture of why I have bought these manuscripts or why I've collaborated or signed up a contract maybe on the shared profits. Maybe I've decided to publish it to pay the author royalty. Think about it that way. Now, having said that, you need to think about issues that connect to the big pictures. And when you are editing, you are editing for developmental reasons. Now, the third stage here is copy editing. Copy editing is the line by line corrections, which is our primary focus in this lesson. Line by line corrections. A copy editor look at the copy and look at each and every line the words, the letters, the sentence structures, the message, the meaning, the context, so that the desired goal is achieved. So that meaning will be shared, because communication is incomplete without shared meaning. There must be a shared meaning between what the sender intends to send and what the receiver intends to comprehend. And there must be a shared understanding that the intention of the sender is what the receiver has decoded. So we can think about copy editing as improving the code. I don't know if that makes sense to you. Now, think about it as improving the code, so that when the encoded code by the sender is decoded right, so that the code message is still as clear as how it was sort of encoded. Okay, we'll move on to the next stage of the cycle, production and typesetting. This is a next important thing. It's a good thing for you to have a manuscript, but the way it is presented really matters. You know, designing the interior, designing the layout. You've seen newspapers, you've seen magazines. Newspapers are designed in columns, about 6 to 7 columns, in some cases 3, in some cases 4, depending on the purpose and the audience of such pages. News columns are usually like 4, 5, 6. But if you come to features, you've seen like 3, max 4, and then you see big pictures, less text. If it is textbook for kids, you see more pictures, less text. You know, as you're growing up, they'll be reducing the photos and be increasing the text, because they're trying to work with your brain so that you can process things. Now, this is the process, the stage called typesetting. Typesetters determine how to lay out text for best engagement. Now, that is the interior. So stage 5. Stage 5, after typesetting, you want to be sure that there are no errors, whether at the point of manuscript editing or at the point of typesetting. Perhaps in the course of typesetting, there were some errors, omissions, some missing lines, or text that has been mistakenly inserted in the course of typesetting. You want to be sure that there is no error. So that is the reason for proofreading. A proofreading is reading it to prove it that it is what was originally intended, and nothing has been introduced in the course of the cycle. This is like fixing typos, formatting the pages, ensuring the page numbers flows correctly, and more. And then we'll move on to the stage of printing or digital conversion. Digital conversion has to do with converting it from the layout planned raw stage to PDF, interactive PDF. You understand? An audio-enabled PDF. And printing is a process of now submitting a proof version. They call it galley proof. You understand? They call it production ready copy. Then it goes through the stages of printing, such as plate making, create impressions. If it is one color impression. If it's 4 colors, go through the CYMK. C is for cyan, Y is for yellow, M for magenta, K is for black. So all of these colors run through in order to produce the impression of printing. Is the process of creating a physical book or the digital book. Don't forget this. And the last, which is very important, is distribution. Every publisher needs to make money. They want to make money. So they're getting the book to the reader. The distribution chain, remember I mentioned at the onset that it is important that market is ready before a publisher acquires a book, a manuscript. Meaning they have seen the potential, the marketability, the profitability before making the purchase or making offer. And when that is acquired, they go through all of these stages, 2, 3, 4, 5. There is in fact an acquisition manager who sort of value the product, if it is worth buying or not. We'll dive deeper into this, perhaps if time permits us later. But for now, you've seen the stages. You have 7 stages to this: acquisition, developmental, copy editing, production and typesetting, prevailing printing, or digital conversion, and then the distribution. Please write this down if you haven't. Thank you if you have done that. Okay, let's take this question. In a traditional book publishing cycle, which stage immediately precedes, or that stage which comes after production and typesetting? So in a traditional book publishing cycle, which stage immediately precedes production and typesetting? What that means, I try to explain this in brackets so for you to be able to understand, if in case you don't understand what proceed means. What stage comes right before production and typesetting? We just did this in the previous slide. Is it distribution? Is it developmental or structural editing? Is it copy editing or proofreading? Hmm? Would step back, have a look at it. You have the production and and typesetting. Which stage comes before that? You know the answer now. I'll just keep it on there. Now, try it now. 3, 2, 1. Is that your final answer? Boom. It's copy editing. Yes, that is why we're here. Copy editing is the correct answer. Now, what is copy editing? Copy editing is reviewing, creating written materials to improve the accuracy, the readability, and the fitness for its purpose. Write that on. Copy editing can be defined as the process of reviewing, correcting written materials to improve the accuracy, readability, and the fitness for its purpose. Now, the goal is to ensure that the text is free from errors, that is free from omissions, is free from inconsistencies and unnecessary repetitions. Free from error, omissions, inconsistencies, and unnecessary repetitions. All right, moving on. A quick one. I don't want to drag this video or this lesson for too long. There are 4 C's of copy editing that you should know. One is clarity. These are principles, guiding principle for that matter. Is when we talk about clarity, we're asking, is the author's meaning instantly clear upon reading the script? The second thing is coherency. Do ideas flow logically between sentences and paragraphs? If they do, it's coherent. Coherence means that it's the same idea. Are they connecting and making sense? Are they progressive? Are they connected? Are they intertwined? Are they working together to push the end meaning? And then we have consistency. Are the names, spellings, and formattings the same throughout? Is there consistency throughout the text? That is a third C. And the last C is the correctness. Is it free from grammar errors? Is it free from spelling errors? And is the punctuation error free? Don't forget clarity, coherence, consistency, correctness. Write that down. Don't forget it. This is an exam question. All right, let's take a look at this question. Which of the 4 C's of copy editing ensures that characters' names, spellings, and formatting are treated the exact same way from the first page to the last? I answered this while I was teaching. Is it clarity? Is it coherence? Is it consistency? Is it correctness? Oh, for those who have been following, your guess is as good as mine. It is consistency. Consistency is ensuring that characters' names are consistent and not changing over the time. All right, move on. Let's talk about the core responsibilities, the day-to-day work of a copy editor. What do? They do what they call mechanical editing. Mechanical editing is the process of fixing syntax. Syntax are structural errors. Why there's another term used here is semantics, fixing meaning errors. But let's focus on syntax, which is what the copy editor does. The meaning has to be clear and the syntax needs to be appropriate. Now we have fixing the syntax errors and grammar and then typo. And then the other thing is enforcing out styles. If there's a particular out style being deployed or used, they need to ensure that it fits in, it is being used. Applying a specific style guide, e.g., APA, Chicago manual style, Harvard style, whatsoever style. In Nigeria, they use APA the most, depending on your discipline. At least in communication, social sciences, APA. APA means American Psychology Association style. So that is what they use. Read more about it. It's part of the things you need to know for this lesson. And then fact checking. The copy editor does what they call fact checking. They confirm if there are errors, the mistakes, and all to ensure that everything is verified before publishing. Verifying easily confirmable facts such as date, location, brand spellings, names, and more. So the next thing is writing autos queries. They do some tactic querying, such as asking the author for clarification on confusing parts to ensure that the meaning intended by the author is not modified or changed in the course of copy editing. So there is this sync and connection relationship interaction between the author and the copy editor to ensure that they are working together to produce the same meaning to improve the text. Let's take a look at this question again. Which of the following is not typically a core responsibility of a copy editor? Could it be A, fact-checking basic, easily confirmable facts, e.g. historical dates? Is it B, enforcing the publisher-specific out style? 3, writing tactful queries to the author for clarification? Which of this? And then the last one is completely rewriting the manuscript to match the editor's personal writing choice. So let's see who gets this right. You get this right? You're not sure. All right, let me show. Pick an answer in your heart. Try. The answer is D. A copy editor cannot completely rewrite the manuscript. The question is not typically the core responsibility. So the copy editor cannot completely rewrite. It will be outside the scope of work. It can only try to enforce our style, to check facts, to query, to speak to the original author to ensure that they are moving in the same direction. And then we have the editorial ecosystem, which I mentioned about, it's an ecosystem. A writer works with a copy editor, the copy editor works with the sub-editor works with all of other teams to ensure that they achieve the same results. We have the author, the creator. The editor must respect their unique voice. That is why a copy editor cannot change the original meaning conveyed by the author. Second is the acquisition editor. They focus on the big picture and the marketability of the manuscript. And the third in the layer is the copy editor. They look out for the mechanics, they fix the errors, and they focus on the micro picture, the mechanics of the sentence, the syntax, the intended meaning, if it is clear or not. Remember, they're looking out for clarity, correctness, consistency, and coherence. So again, the rule of thumb is that diplomacy is just as important as a sharp eye. You have to have eye to pick errors, eye to pick mistakes. This is a way to become a very sharp copy editor. Okay, now my note on this is that an editor who is brilliant at you know at grammar, but they are rude to other, they will not last long in the industry. The fact is that when you are not diplomatic in engaging, what happens is that you will harm your relationship. There's what they call soft skill, interpersonal communication skills. If an editor is disagreeing with the manuscript or some things, it has to be communicated politely and not rudely. So diplomacy is as important as sharp eye. You may have sharp eye to figure out error, but your diplomacy will determine whether or not your idea is sort of processed, considered, or rejected. Have a look at this. Why an acquisition editor focuses on the big picture and the marketability of a book? What is the primary focus of a copy editor? Is it rewriting the plots to make it more exciting? The mechanics of the sentence and line by line quality control, or designing the final book cover and layout, or pitching the book to the local bookstores? Is it A, B, C, or D? Do you know that it is the mechanics of sentences and line by line quality control? Okay. Oh, I already give out this answer. In the context of book publishing, what does house style refer to? It simply refers to the specific guidelines that have been provided by the house. Maybe this is the way we want to write our first name. Maybe you want to write all author's name is capital letter, or you have a particular way of writing things. That is the context. So don't mind. This is meant to come first before this. Ignore that. That's totally fine. That's an expo for you. Let's move on. I would like to then at this point ask you to scan this QR code, screenshot it if you're using mobile phone, and then click on the QR code, and then it will lead you there. So do this now. Ask questions. Ask questions. Do that. Do that. Do that. Do that. Ask questions. Scan the QR code. Ask questions. Pause the video. Ask questions. Okay. Thank you. I'll be picking the questions as they drop. Please, the earlier you ask, the better. Or after this particular slide is gone, every other question should go on either there, and then you should paste them on the YouTube comment section. It would be great. So let's summarize this. The copy editors, they are the unsung heroes because they are the final quality control managers. They determine they are the one at the checkpoints before production begins. When they miss important errors, it affects the final output. And by the time production has begun, mass production is already on the way. Then you can't correct. Imagine if you are able to correct one copy and then it influences thousands or millions of copies. But if you missed correcting it, it becomes a mess. Now, they again, one of another thing that we've learned today is that the copy editors bridge the gap between author's raw voice and the reader's seamless experience. And lastly, without copy editors, typesettings, and design will only highlight manuscript flaws. Yes, because if they are not there to correct it, if it is published, it becomes flawed. You understand? We have errors everywhere. And I've seen books like that. They are not good books. It doesn't create good impression. In fact, it disreputes organization, it disreputes authors. So now, this is the last part of it. Please scan this QR code, and I appreciate your feedback. Now I've made the correction there. You have the form link right there below there, so you can screenshot it. If you're on iOS, you can click on it, and then if you've got your mobile phone, you can just use your camera, and then it will take you there. So pause the video right now, and then scan the QR code, fill it in, and then we'll move on. All right. If you've done this, good. So we've hereby come to the end of this lesson, and the next lesson is going to be on the copy editors toolkit, providing marks, and then we'll look at some outstyle. We'll look at provided marks, the special signs that they use. So please read, review your course outline, be prepared for the next lesson, and then we take it all around the clock in order for us to make the maximum impact as much as we can do that. All right. Thank you very much and stay connected. And bye.